Our topic is inclusivity training, preventing harassment in the workplace. There's a sign-in sheet right on the corner there. Thank you. So if you've ever had any kind of this training before anywhere, a lot of the stuff will be the same information. It might just be a reminder. Otherwise, it'd be brand new. So there's seats in the back as well. At the end of this, we will pass out acknowledgement forms. You were sent a PDF via email, probably today or sometime earlier this week. And you just need to sign the acknowledgement form. If you're a supervisor, you'll get a different form. And if you're a supervisor, you get to stay an extra 30 minutes. So some of you get to leave. I promise it won't be that painful. So what we're going to go over today is inclusivity, how it affects team morale, how it affects how we get along with each other, recognize forms of discrimination, harassment. We're going to go through some examples and help promote and maintain a comfortable workplace. There's some spots in the back as well, over here and over here. So just sign in. Thank you. And my clickers. This is my third one today, so I'm going to try to get more energy. Don't feel so bad. You're only going through one. So first of all, what do you think about when you hear, the term inclusivity? What are the topics, the concepts that you think about? Anyone?
Teamwork.
Teamwork? And then I'll give you a hint. The answer's on the screen. It's not excluding anybody. Including, not excluding. Pretty simple. Including as many people as possible, not excluding people. There's I think 2 seats over there. We could probably grab, oh, here's another seat right here. You get to sit right here. No, I'm just kidding. You can take it back there. That would be a little awkward for me. Okay, thank you. We got it. It's the hottest topic of the year, and I do know it's mandatory, so. But it's full room all day. But inclusivity is really including everybody regardless of any characteristics. So just keep that in mind if you're in charge of, meetings or brainstorming sessions of including as many people as possible. You may have possibly an elementary school had a kickball team thing going on in elementary school, and they put all the kids on the playground or maybe in the gym, and the teacher would pick 2 coaches, and then the kids had to pick who's going to be on their team. You ever do that? Maybe it wasn't with kickball. It could have been something else. You didn't want to be the last person chosen. You're like, please choose me, please choose me, please choose me. That's inclusivity. That's a sense of belonging. So, be cognizant of if you're intentionally or unintentionally excluding people and it's the same person all of the time. How does inclusivity affect team morale? Give you another hint. The answer is on the screen here. It's a sense of belonging. If you don't have a sense of belonging where you work, you're probably not going to stick around too long. Or maybe you are going to stick around and you're not going to be very productive. You're not going to be happy to be around. You're not going to be a joy to work with. So make sure that you're inviting people in so that they feel that they belong, especially new people. If you have new hires, it is the first day, unless you are a really outgoing personality, that first day, that first week is so painful because you're like, I don't know anybody. Am I going to fit? Did I make the right decision? You want them to know that they made the right decision and that they're invited into your circle of trust. Absence of fear. We don't want anyone to be afraid to talk to you. You don't have to be a supervisor for somebody to come up to you and say, hey, I want your opinion on something. I value your opinion. We want them to not be afraid to do that. If you always have the face on that says, get away from me, then they're probably not going to come up, which means they didn't learn something from you and you possibly missed something from them as well. Thinking outside the box, if we hire the same people that look exactly the same, act the same, have the exact same experiences throughout their life, we wouldn't have this room sitting in front of us, I can tell you that much. And we probably want to be very progressive as a company, right? If you only hired certain people that this is the only thing they knew was this, and maybe it's a manufacturing firm, And okay, that's all you need is these skills where you're going this way and the company's just going this way. Well, another company's going to come in, your competitor, and they're going to go this way, up in growth, and then you're going to decline. We need outside the box ideas. We need those insane ideas to grow, and we need people's opinions and their experiences. If you only work with people that are just like you, you're missing out, and you're only going to know the information that you came into the workplace with. Open communication. What does that mean? Does that mean open door policy? What if you don't have doors? I'm sure quite a few of you here don't have doors, right? Open door policy doesn't always work either, because if your door is open, but they come into your area and you have that look on your face that says, I don't want to talk to you, it's not really open communication. But really, we're all adults here. Anybody here under 18? No? Good. Then we are all adults here. Can we agree to that? Means we're all adults. We can all speak up professionally. Maybe we don't all act like them. We are all adults by law in the United States where we are. So, we need to act like adults and speak to each other respectfully. If we have an issue with somebody or what they've said, respectfully asking them to talk about it instead of going, you're an idiot, you're stupid. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Improved internal and external relationships. Why do we care about external relationships? And what do I mean by that? Who would be an external relationship? Customers. Why do we care about customers? Because they pay us. Thank you. If we don't make the customer happy, we won't need this training because you won't be here. And so customers are very important. Vendors are very important. Strategic partners are very important. This college down here is very important because this is where you have most of your meetings, right? So you have to be very, very nice and respectful to the people who work here. Otherwise, you don't have any space for meetings. And one person can destroy that. Cultural understanding. Not everybody grew up in the same part of the country or the same part of the world as you. And so you have to start getting to know what the other cultures are like, that you might accidentally offend somebody. Anybody? I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania, so I'm a Yankee. Anybody else a Yankee here? There's two of us, a couple of us. We walk fast, we talk fast, we do everything fast, and we get frustrated when everybody else doesn't do that. Well, it took me a long, long time to realize that I was the one that's wrong. I don't want everybody to be like me. I mean, I do, but it's not a good idea, because if I'm always doing things fast, that means nobody's slowing down to look at the details, and then that's where we get in trouble. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Knowledge is power. What I mean by knowledge is power is not education, not a degree. You can have a lot of degrees and not be a very good person. But you can, take courses like this. You can read things. You could get to understand other people and their personalities and have more knowledge than somebody with several degrees. And so knowledge is power, but not in the way that some people abuse it. So let's talk about common sense. What do you guys think about common sense? Go ahead, say it. Somebody say it. Common sense is not very common, and then someone else's common sense is a habit. So common sense is actually a set of skills. It is a set of skills that's often been passed down from generation to generation of family members, of neighbors, of communities, of business people. And so so it's not a sense at all. You're not born with it. It's a skill that's passed down. So if you ever hear yourself saying in your head or out loud, that person has no common sense, take a minute, grab a mirror, and say, well, how did I learn that skill? And then you could maybe think, well, I don't know, I don't remember. I mean, I always had that skill. You didn't always have that skill. You may have been taught that skill when you were 2, 3, 4 years old, and you assumed that it was common, but it's not. Take 15 minutes of your time, an hour of your time in your lifetime to pull somebody aside who doesn't have that skill that you believe should be common and teach them it. And then you will then be able to say, now they have common sense. So I'll give you an example. Anybody here grow up on a farm? Couple farmers. Okay, you guys cannot answer this question, okay? So we're going to hypothetically get in a bus. We're going to go out here, go on a little road trip, and we're going to go out to a farm like in Ocoee. And we're going to all get off the bus, and the farmer's going to greet us, and he's going to say, I have a cow that needs to be milked. Go do it. Well, what are we going to say? We're going to grab YouTube probably and say, oh, can I YouTube this? We're going to say, I don't know how to do it. Can you teach me? And he's going to say it's common sense. Because it's common sense to that type of farmer, literally probably was taught that, before he could even walk, he or she, and it's common sense to that community. So think about that next time you accuse somebody, inside your head or out loud of not having common sense, that it's really a set of skills. So with that said, we're going to move on. So when we walk out of here today, everyone's going to have common sense on discrimination, harassment, and inclusivity. Is that fair? That means you have to stay awake. Most of it's not very painful. There's a small part that's painful. Has anybody ever read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? So this is the 5th habit. First seek to understand, then be understood. What does that mean? It means it's not all about you. You are not the center of the universe. You are not the center of the department. You are not the center of the company. Other people are. So you sometimes have to put your perceptions away and seek to understand what other people are feeling, thinking, talking about in order to move forward with a project or a job. You usually want to get your point across before somebody else does. So, try to think about that and say, let me let somebody else talk that normally wouldn't. Why does this happen? Most people don't listen to hear. They just don't even listen. Have you ever done this? And it's okay if you said yes, because I do it, and I still do it sometimes. You're on the phone with somebody, and you're going, yeah. Okay, all right, get to the point. All right. Or somebody's sitting in front of you talking to you, and you're literally in your head going, I already know the answer, I know the answer. You're not listening anymore. Well, when somebody's upset about something, they either going to shut down and not say anything, or they're going to be saying a lot. And you're like, okay, I don't even know I can't even listen at this point. That's when I encourage you to take out a pen and paper and start trying to jot down what they're saying, so then you can, confirm, this is what I heard, this is what you're saying. This works at home too, by the way. So if you're ever arguing with your spouse or with your children and you're like, there's information all over the place, first seek to understand, then be understood. So with that said, we're going to go over some things that are legal but inappropriate before we get into the serious stuff, which isn't as fun. Teasing someone about their lesser strengths, also known as their weaknesses. It's not appropriate. It's legal. Eventually, it may not be legal because it could be considered, bullying. It's just not appropriate. If you're picking on somebody because of a skill that they don't have or that they don't do well, it's not going to improve that skill. It's just going to make you look like a not very good person. It's going to undermine their trust in you and the trust in the team. If you need somebody or you want somebody to say speak Spanish because you have a Spanish-speaking client and you need them to talk to them, picking on them about not knowing how to speak Spanish is not going to get them to come back the next day. By the way, I know how to speak Spanish. It doesn't work that way. So why do it? It just undermines the trust in the entire team. Calling someone dumb or stupid makes you look dumb or stupid. It's not respectful, it's uncalled for, and it's inappropriate in the workplace. Bullying and power plays, and this isn't just if you are literally in a powerful position, but if you know something that somebody else doesn't know and you're withholding information, or you're bullying them into seeing your side of the decision and getting them to vote for you, so to speak. It's not appropriate. And people will see that and not trust you. Rumors and gossips about coworkers or clients. So this is very important. If you're walking to the break room and you overhear people chatting and it's not in a positive way about a customer, a client, a coworker, what do? You have a couple choices. You can say, "Oh, it's not my territory. I'm out of here," or you can act like an adult and say, "Hey, that's really not appropriate for you guys to be talking about this." At a minimum, what I would do is, if you were a part of that group, is excuse yourself from that conversation and say, I don't think this is very appropriate. I'm not going to be part of this conversation. If everybody does that, then no one will have anybody left to gossip with. The worst thing that worries me about gossip is rumors. And rumors is, first of all, you undermine the trust in each other, so then you don't want to work with each other. You're going to lose good people, because of that. And then the thing that often happens is a workplace decision was made, a policy was made, a decision was made on something, and a memo went out, or there was a meeting about it. And then someone said, oh, they made this decision because of this. And then it goes through this whole train of people, and then it gets back there, and it's a totally different story. So if you are anywhere in that train, you should say, well, where's this information coming from? Let's go to the source and figure this out. By acting like an adult and getting 3 people in the room when there's a discussion or a disagreement going on, it stops real quick instead of, slipping a note under somebody's door. Not letting go of past mistakes or errors. We all screw up, right? We learn from our mistakes. Hopefully we learn from our mistakes. We're going to try to get our coworkers and our clients to learn from mistakes. Why keep harping on them? If you're talking about somebody's mistake from 6 months ago, 6 years ago, that doesn't do anything to say anything about your image, right? So what? Somebody made a mistake. If they're still employed here, the company has overcome it, and you should too. If you're talking about things over and over and over again, people eventually are going to get sick of talking to you. This also works at home too. So if you keep bringing something up in your past, in your relationship at home, they're going to eventually get sick of hearing it and either tune you out, maybe leave you, or there's going to be a fight about something else. So a lot of these lessons can be used at home as well. So this is the serious part. We get serious for a few minutes, and then we'll go back. Discrimination discrimination harassment is very serious business. I don't really care if you guys know the laws. Just know that it's wrong and that it's illegal. Harassment is a form of discrimination. It's unwelcome conduct that is based on race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. So let me go over a couple things real quick. Unwelcome conduct. What does that mean? Something that might be welcome to you is unwelcome to you. Or it may be welcome to you, but only from me and not from him. You're never going to figure out that category. So just stay away from topics that include any of these protected characteristics, which are listed here. Note that, most people think that if you can't discriminate over 40 years of age. In Florida, it's every age. So it doesn't matter. And you're in the state of Florida. So don't use age as a factor for when you're just making employment decisions, meaning you're a project manager. Doesn't mean you're in charge of people, but maybe you're trying to figure out who should, be assigned to this project. Don't use any of these characteristics to that decision. And again, I really don't care if you know what the law is. Who cares? Who cares what the law is? It's illegal. Don't do it. You will lose your job if these things happen. It undermines trust and respect necessary for productive work environment, which we've already talked about. Harassment becomes unlawful when one of these two things happen. The action is enduring the offensive conduct becomes a condition of continuing employment. The person has to work with you all the time. That's their assignment. They have to work with you, but you're harassing them because of their religion. You're harassing them because they're pregnant, whatever it might be. And they have no choice to work with you. Well, their choice could be to file a lawsuit to get you terminated from your job and some other things as well, which we'll go over. The conduct is severe or pervasive enough to create a work environment that a reasonable person would consider intimidating, hostile, or abusive. What is a reasonable person? Depends who you ask. In HR, we say that a lot. I don't know, it depends. I need more information. It depends. Reasonable is different between everybody. And so I can't tell you who reasonable is. A court probably could tell you based on past cases, but we want to be able to figure that out. Pervasive or severe enough. Okay, so how many people here use social media? Probably a lot, right? How many people are addicts like me? So every chance you get, you're flipping through it, You're like, okay, I got to get on my social media. So you've got a break, or you're getting a coffee and you're going through Facebook or whatever your social media is. And when those videos come on and you don't know how to turn them off. And that happens to me. So the video comes on and it's, insensitive to one of the protective characteristics. Maybe it's a racially insensitive video, or talking about religion, or even possibly politics as well, which isn't protected, but probably isn't a good idea to bring it up either. What do? It's a mistake. You didn't mean it. So what do? You apologize, and you don't do it again. You figure out how to turn the volume down and how not to get those videos to automatically play. So don't think coming out of here, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble for everything. We're humans, we make mistakes. If it's severe and you keep doing it intentionally, even after it's already you've been talked to about it by a colleague or by a supervisor. Petty annoyances, things that are happening just once. If you're just an annoying person, it doesn't mean it's illegal. But it could be bullying, and it could be affecting people's performance because they don't want to work with you. So while it's not illegal, it may not be appropriate for the workplace. So again, to be unlawful, it must be intimidating, hostile, or offensive to a reasonable person, which we don't have a clear definition of. It's a lot of gray. Offensive conduct may include offensive jokes, this note on somebody's computer that says loser. Don't be talking about people's age, people's race, their religion. It's none of your business. It has nothing to do with the work product. It has nothing to do with how they do their work or how they don't do their work. So if you start getting into these conversations, think to yourself, oh, Wendy, the HR lady said we cannot be doing this. And remember my face. Scary, isn't it? And make sure that you're saying, this is probably not an appropriate conversation. Even though I'm not offended, it could be something offensive to somebody else. Harassment can occur in many ways. It really affects anybody. It could be a supervisor and an employee, a customer, a vendor. It could be a male, a female. It's everybody and anything that is offensive can be considered harassment. Unlawful harassment is based on one of those characteristics. This is one of the things that I do want to know. Many people will say, oh, they just filed that harassment suit or that discrimination suit because they were looking for money. It's not necessarily the case. It doesn't have to be, it's called economic injury or loss of money. They could just want it to stop. So we all know who Matt Lauer is, which has definitely moved this movement forward. So Matt Lauer, national news anchor, the person who filed the last straw complaint on him did not file for money. She said, I don't want money, I just want it to stop. Now, I don't know if she actually got money or not, I have no idea, but that's how it came out in the news that morning when he was terminated. So she wasn't looking for money, she was just looking for it to stop. And that's what most people do want. They just want to go to work, do their job, and not feel sick to their stomach when they pull into the parking lot, which they then bring home to their family, and then they either quit their job or maybe they get fired because they're poor performance, but it's all because of discrimination that has, not got reported by you guys right here. So, I keep walking away. Why you need to know about this? There's zero tolerance for discrimination and harassment here at AssistRx. We all have the right to work. See how that just slowed down? It's my third session of the day. It's like, okay. We all have the right to fair treatment at work. Discrimination harms everybody. Harassment harms everyone. Sexual harassment harms everyone. And men and women on every level can be harassers and victims as well. It doesn't have to be an employee. It could be somebody who's working the food stand out here. It could be somebody down here in the college. It could be one of your vendors. It could be a customer. They can be a harasser or they could be a victim. Many of you, not everybody seems to be wearing them around their neck right now, but you have your name tag with your security badge, And you may accidentally leave here and leave it on when you're going to the grocery store, right? Well, if you're on the phone or you're talking to somebody and you're complaining about work and or you're maybe saying something that's not legal at work, now you've just ruined the reputation of the organization that's out there. And if you're saying something that's illegal in the workplace, somebody might pick up the phone and say, okay, yeah, so-and-so was just at Publix and they were telling this racially insensitive joke or they were talking about this, and I just wanted to let you know that they're wearing your company shirt. And that could come back to you too. So if you hopefully none of you would ever do that, but maybe don't wear the shirt, don't wear the name tag if you're going to be out of control. And don't put it on social media. Harassment doesn't have to be sexual harassment. It could be gossip and rumors, which we talked about. And so I have to come over here and get my water. I'm losing my voice. These are just some images of coworkers, gossiping or making other people uncomfortable for whatever reason that might be. So how widespread is sexual harassment? There's about 15,000 sexual harassment cases are filed each year. Complaints by men have increased by 20%, so it's not just what people think, which is just women filing the complaints. The consequences could be job loss, obviously, and career damage, as well as company brand is damaged because it may end up in the newspaper. We want to go in the newspaper, but not for this. We do not want to be in the newspaper like, hey, look, it's widespread harassment at AssistRx, because that's going to be great for recruiting, right? And that's going to be great for customers. Customers will leave companies that have widespread harassment and discrimination. We are seeing it happen all over the place right now. How many celebrities have now lost their jobs, and movies that had to be remade just recently because those celebrities are no longer welcome in that environment. That's a lot of money. Those people, I hope they saved all their millions, because they won't be making any more, not in that industry anyways. Your personal image may be damaged, obviously, if you ended up in the news because of a discrimination harassment case. Let me talk a minute about the job loss, the career damage. Most people think that, if you leave a company and you're getting a reference to go to another company, that there's only what I refer to as rank and file, date of hire, date of termination, and the role, and that's not the case. Many companies, that's all they do, because we're a litigious society, but a company can tell the next company anything they want as long as it's the truth. So if you're fired because of sexual harassment, they can tell the next company you were fired because sexual harassment. And in fact, if it was something severe like sexual harassment or maybe violence or major theft, and you don't tell the next company can sue the former company for not giving them the facts or for giving them a good reference when in fact it shouldn't have been a good reference. So don't think, oh, well, that's in my past. No, it goes with you. Just like a criminal record, it goes with you. So you really have to think twice that it's not just what's affecting today. It could affect your career for the rest of your life. Friendships could be destroyed. Many of you here are friends, right? I'm sure Mr. Matt Lauer, we know, because it's all over People magazine and everywhere else, lost a lot of friends during this because they didn't know. And then the people that did know, probably aren't friends with the other people anymore either. So friendships have been lost, and relationships can be destroyed. Many harassers will then end up in divorce situations, possibly lose custody of their children, things like that. Besides that, you'll be struggling financially because of the effect it has. Again, I want to scare you a little bit, but I don't want to scare you so much to say, oh my God, everything I do is illegal, or I'm so afraid. We're human beings. We make mistakes, and it's okay. Just be cognizant that not everybody thinks like you, and they may perceive your actions in a different way. So jumping into sexual harassment a little bit more, quid pro quo is Latin for this, for that, and it's usually the type of harassment by somebody in an authority level or power level. So, not necessarily a supervisor, but somebody who has authority in the company, and they may be asking a victim for a sexual favor, maybe a date to keep their job or something like that. Pretty easy to define, right? It's pretty easy to define. The one that's not so easy to define is the one that we can all accidentally be doing, and we need to be careful, and that's called the hostile work environment, which is severe or pervasive enough, intimidating, hostile, or offensive displays of conduct. Actions hurt, words hurt, and images hurt. And they don't just hurt the victim, they will hurt you and your family, possibly, in your career. So we just want to stay away from it. Hostile work environment, again, to summarize, includes comments or behaviors based on these protected characteristics: race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, national origin, age, 40 or older, or all ages in Florida, disability or genetic information. Do not touch or pretend to touch somebody. We used to do this as kids in the back seats of the car. I'm touching you, I'm touching you, I'm touching you. If you had siblings, you didn't. Otherwise, don't do that at work. Don't pretend to be touching somebody or to block their path. You're trying to get in touch with somebody, they're not answering your calls, you see them coming down this hallway here, and you stand in front of them and block their path so they can't go anywhere else. That can be considered not only an act of violence or physical violence, but it could be harassment because they are now concerned for their safety, even if there isn't a way out. So don't do that. Don't hold people in a hostage in a room or in a hallway. Obviously, sexually explicit pictures or anything like that, be careful with your technology. Just because we're on the internet all the time, we're looking at things that may be appropriate, but there's inappropriate ad in there and you didn't really know about that, so be careful with that. And then also, if there's regularly using dirty words, making sexual jokes, and I want you to replace that word sexual with any of those protected characteristics. So jokes about a religion, jokes about pregnancy, jokes about disability. Be very, very careful. They're not appropriate at work. You might think they're appropriate, and the person you're talking to might be okay with it, but you never know who's around and who's going to overhear, and that's what you really need to be concerned about. Or obscene gestures, which I think we all know what they are. So in this culture, but there's other ones in other cultures that we may not be aware about. Making rude comments of, again, not just a sexual nature, but of any nature of a protective characteristic, including age. Regarding these things here, again, they have no business, you don't even have any business talking about somebody's religion, age, if they have a disability. It's none of your business. It has nothing to do with work and work performance. Sure, you might start forming a relationship with somebody, a friendship, and you might think it's okay because we went out to lunch that I can talk about this, but it might not be okay. Or it might be okay for you to talk about it at lunch, but they're not comfortable with you talking about it, in the workplace. But if it's making them uncomfortable because you said something, at an after hours event, if it's making them uncomfortable back in the workplace, it's still illegal discrimination. So many rules, humans and their feelings. The point is, you never know how somebody else is going to take things. We've already talked about harassment in technology, so just be very careful on that. These are some images. If you don't get it by now, these are some images of what not to do. This is uninvited and unwelcome behavior. So the thing that I want to stress is something maybe okay from one person to another. So I might, come up to you and give you a hug, which I would not, just so you know. But and you might be okay with that, but you're not okay with her giving you a hug. And you're never going to know what that dynamic is. Even if you thought you knew somebody 110%, you're never going to know what's going on in their mind that day. So the best piece of advice is keep your hands to yourself. I don't want you to never shake hands or pat somebody on the back or anything, but you just don't know what people's personality is. I do not like anybody touching me that I don't know. And even if I know you, I'm still not sure I want you touching me. And people around me know that. So it's kind of like, okay, you know that now. But it would probably, in the workplace, if somebody came up to me and did that, I don't know. I'm outspoken, so I know what I would say. But other people might just say, okay, now I'm feeling just weird all day about this. So just be careful and put yourself in other people's shoes and in their minds. So dating a coworker. Here at AssistRx, it's not against policy, as long as you're not a supervisor or it's not, impeding the job performance and the work. If you are asking a coworker on a date and you are told no, don't ask again. Side note, this goes for anybody in life. If somebody tells you no, don't stalk them. Don't internet stalk them. Don't text them 1,000 texts. Don't send them emails. There is an actual stalking law against that. So no, not only will you get trouble at work, you'd probably go to jail as well. So don't ask somebody for a date if they've already said no, specifically at work, but really in the world. Compliments can be harassment. People perceive things differently than you. Their perception is their reality, not your reality. You're never going to know what their perception is. Your intended message may be perceived as something else and maybe come off as unwanted and unwelcome. If you're commenting on somebody's appearance, you're commenting on their weight loss, their weight gain, you're commenting on their clothes, anything like that, you don't know how it's going to come off. So just be very careful. I'm not telling you never to comment and give your coworkers a compliment. Just be careful and say, does that sound like sexual harassment or something else? Be very, very careful. If a person welcomes behavior by one coworker, it doesn't give you access, like I just showed over here in this example. So just because they're accepting of a hug or a compliment from somebody else doesn't mean that they're going to be accepting it from you. Don't get offended by it. Remember what we said in the beginning, the fifth rule. First, seek to understand, not understood. You know what I'm trying to say. You are not the center of their world, and so you have to make sure, even if somebody's offended by what you said, don't get so upset about it. You're like, I can't believe it. They don't like me. No, that's just not who they are. We talked about this. Everybody is affected by harassment, discrimination, all the way down to family members, because if a victim or a harasser, but if a victim is coming home every day and is so stressed and now they're medically sick and they can't work or they quit their job because of it and there's no food on the table, they obviously are affecting their family members. So everybody can be affected. It's really serious, and I don't think everybody thinks about that. Oh, it's just a comment. Well, that comment could really trigger something that happened in the person's childhood that you're never going to know about. It could have been childhood abuse. It could have been sexual abuse. It could be something in their culture that is not discussed and they can never talk about it with their family, and so now affects their family relationships. You don't know people the way you think you know them. So everybody could be affected by this. So sexual harassment, do you understand that there's two different types, quid pro quo and hostile work environment? Just give me a nod, yeah. And my clicker's not working here. Is it clear who may be affected by sexual harassment in the workplace? And really any harassment, and that is everybody. So we're going to ask you some questions. An employee is asked to talk about her raise with her supervisor after business hours at a romantic restaurant. Which type of harassment might this be? See, it's all common sense now, right? An employee brings a sexually explicit gag gift into work for a coworker's birthday present. Correct. Now, the coworker receiving the gift may think it's hilarious. But what about the 15 witnesses that had to overhear it or see the pictures? And so that's not appropriate at all to be doing that. So what can you do to help? Do your job professionally. Say something if you're uncomfortable with another person's statements, actions, or images, even if it's not directed at you. We're all adults here. We can speak up. Report unresolved issues to a supervisor or manager. For basic things that are annoying or maybe inappropriate, you could probably handle these yourself and talk to the person and say, that didn't make me feel comfortable. Not everyone's going to be okay doing that, so you'll probably need your supervisor. And then as it gets more serious, getting human resources involved. Do not discriminate or harass others, and treat everyone with respect. So what I want to do is we're going to do a little quiz. You're all going to pass, because it's all common sense now, I promise. And we're just going to say this out loud. So the two main forms of sexual harassment are quid pro quo and hostile work environment. True or false?
True.
Yay! As long as people can keep their hands to themselves, no one can complain of harassment. Asking a coworker out on a date would be considered illegal sexual harassment. Unless they've already said no. What was that?
I said it's in the policy, not to.
Sexual harassment can only involve interactions between people of the opposite sex. Harassment can be based on race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. Teasing someone about their age could be considered harassment or age discrimination. Sending racial slurs to a coworker who is the same race as you could be considered harassment or race discrimination. That was a trick one. True? Absolutely true. Inclusivity involves listening and being open to new ideas and knowledge. True or false? True. Dating a coworker is illegal? False. It is everyone's job to ensure colleagues are harassment-free and included. Look at that! You're all experts now. It is common sense at AssistRx that inclusivity is important to build trust and increase performance. And discrimination and harassment is illegal. And there's many other things that are just wrong and inappropriate that you don't want to do because it can cost you your job. So, I just want to make sure that you understand how all of this, while it's not a fun topic, it really does affect team morale. And team morale affects your morale and then sometimes gets you to stay here longer and longer and longer hours, right? So if we're all able to trust each other, if I trust that I'm going to give the ball to you and you're going to take it, to the finish line, then I can go home and come back the next day and pick up where you left off. But if I don't trust you because I don't want to be around you because of your behavior, then that just throws everything into a circle that you don't want to go in. Does anybody have any questions?